Step back in time to a world lit by candles and powered by muscle. A world where the rhythm of life was dictated not by the clock, but by the sun and the seasons. This was the world on the brink of a monumental change, a change so profound it would reshape humanity forever. This is the story of the Industrial Revolution. Before the late 18th century, life for most people was rural, agricultural, and local. The vast majority lived and worked on the land, their existence tied to the soil. Production was small-scale, often happening right in people's homes. A weaver might have a single loom, a blacksmith a single forge. Life was predictable, but it was also limited by the power of human hands and the strength of animals. The world was about to be turned upside down by a series of innovations that would echo through the centuries. It all began with a single thread. For generations, spinning wool or cotton into thread was a painstaking, manual process. But in the 1760s, a humble weaver named James Hargreaves invented a machine that would change everything: the spinning jenny. Suddenly, one worker could spin multiple threads at once, dramatically increasing productivity. This wasn't just a better tool, it was a paradigm shift. Following the jenny came Richard Arkwright's water frame, which used water power to spin even stronger thread, and then Samuel Crompton's spinning mule, which combined the best of both. The bottleneck of thread production was broken, and the textile industry was ready to explode. These new machines were large, expensive, and needed a power source beyond human strength. This gave birth to a revolutionary concept: the factory. Instead of work happening in scattered cottages, it was centralized into massive buildings, first along rivers to harness water power, and then, with another world-changing invention, anywhere. That invention was the steam engine. While early versions existed, it was James Watt's improvements in the 1770s that made the steam engine efficient and powerful enough to become the true workhorse of the revolution. Steam could power the textile mills, freeing them from the riverbanks. It could pump water out of coal mines, allowing miners to dig deeper and fuel the growing demand for energy. The hiss of steam and the turning of gears became the new soundtrack of progress. Factories sprung up, creating a voracious appetite for raw materials and a way to transport finished goods. The answer to this logistical challenge chugged into view on iron rails: the steam locomotive. Early pioneers like Richard Trevithick and George Stephenson harnessed steam power on wheels, creating a mode of transport that was faster and more powerful than anything the world had ever seen. The opening of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway in 1830 was a landmark moment. For the first time, people and goods could be moved across the country at unprecedented speeds. Distances that once took days to cover could now be traversed in hours. The world started to shrink. Iron bridges arched over rivers, and tunnels burrowed through mountains, physically rewriting the landscape to serve this new industrial age. This massive shift in production and transport triggered one of the greatest human migrations in history. People flocked from the countryside to the cities, drawn by the promise of work in the new factories. Cities like Manchester, once a modest market town, exploded into the world's first industrial metropolis. London swelled, its docks bustling with ships from across the globe, its streets teeming with a new urban population. But this growth was chaotic and often brutal. The cities of the Industrial Revolution were places of incredible contrast. For the emerging middle class, the factory owners, engineers, and merchants' life was one of growing prosperity and comfort. They built grand homes, enjoyed new consumer goods, and shaped a new urban culture. But for the working class, the reality was often grim. People were crammed into poorly built and sanitary housing. Entire families might live in a single room. Diseases like cholera and typhoid, spread by contaminated water, were rampant. The air was thick with smoke from factory chimneys, a constant reminder of the engine driving the city's wealth. Inside the factories, conditions were often dangerous. The machinery was loud, relentless, and unforgiving. There were no safety regulations. A moment's inattention could lead to a lost limb or worse. Workdays were long, typically 12 to 14 hours, 6 days a week. And the workforce included not just men and women, but children. Due to their small size, children were often employed for tasks like scrambling under machines to retrieve broken threads. They worked the same long hours as adults for a fraction of the pay, their childhood sacrificed to the factory floor. This stark inequality and hardship didn't go unchallenged. Workers began to organize. Frustrated and feeling powerless, some, like the Luddites, smashed the machines they saw as their oppressors. A more sustainable response was the formation of trade unions. These early unions fought for better wages, shorter hours, and safer working conditions. Their struggle was long and difficult, often met with fierce resistance from factory owners and the government. But through strikes, protests, and political action, they slowly began to win reforms, laying the groundwork for the workers' rights we often take for granted today. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just a British phenomenon. Its ideas and technologies spread like wildfire, first to Belgium, France, and Germany, then across the Atlantic to the United States. Each nation adapted the revolution to its own resources and culture, but the fundamental pattern was the same: a shift from farm to factory, the rise of cities, and the creation of a new industrial society. This global spread created a new world economy, one based on mass production, international trade, and a complex web of dependencies. As the 19th century drew to a close, the first industrial revolution, built on coal, steam, and iron, began to give way to a second. This new phase was powered by electricity, steel, and oil. The telephone, the light bulb, and the automobile appeared, each another leap forward, building directly on the foundations laid since the first spinning jenny. The legacy of the Industrial Revolution is, quite simply, the modern world. Look around you. The device you're watching this on, the clothes you're wearing, the food you eat, the building you're in, all are products of a system of mass production born in those first factories. Our globalized economy, our urban societies, the very concept of a 9-to-5 job, and even our relationship with time itself are all inheritances from this period. It gave us incredible technological progress and an unprecedented rise in living standards for many. It created wealth, opportunity, and the consumer society. But it also brought immense social disruption, inequality, and environmental challenges that we are still grappling with today. The story of the Industrial Revolution is a story of human ingenuity and ambition, of progress and pain. It's the story of how a few key inventions, a shift in thinking, and the relentless drive for efficiency took us from a world of muscle and candlelight to the one we inhabit now. It reminds us that technology is never just about machines, it's about how it changes us, our societies, and our place in the world. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through time. If you found this story fascinating, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more explorations into the moments that shaped our world. See you next time.